Hello, this is Catherine, as I know I need to stop talking. Hello, lovelies, how are we all doing? I'm poorly. I'm feeling very, very sorry for myself. And before you ask, it's not COVID, because that is kind of like the default these days, isn't it? It's like, I'm ill. Is it COVID? Unless you're Beth, who is obsessed with people being sick. So it doesn't matter what's wrong with you, if like your leg's falling off. And she'll be like, are you going to throw up? I went for a wee earlier and I opened the door to find, because I've got a stage now with my kids where they don't come into the toilet because they are that little bit older, but they will quite often just stand right outside the toilet door and try and carry on some conversation. So I literally opened the toilet door from having a wee and Beth's like stood there in my face. Were you sick? I was like, I'm not sick. I haven't got a stomach bug. I've got a cold. But do you feel sick? No. Oh my God, I don't feel sick. I feel absolutely fine. Well, you don't, do you? You're ill. Well, yeah, no, I am ill. So are you going to be sick? Oh my God, for the love of God, no, I'm not going to be sick. But yeah, I've got a cold. I mean, colds are fucking brutal, aren't they? Because everybody's like, oh, it's just a cold. It's not just a cold. Feels like my entire sinus system is going to turn itself upside down and inside out. And like I've got enough liquid snot shit pouring out my nose. No, shit's not pouring out my nose. God, what a terrible mental image. But you know, it's like all that gunk and horribleness. You're like, oh, I can't breathe and I'm so hot and blah, blah, blah. But it's only a cold. Only a cold. I feel like shit. But yeah, I have done my obligatory COVID test and it turns out not COVID, just a cold. And thankfully not one that makes you throw up, despite Beth willing it to be. So if I sound a bit like, maybe I'm doing like some husky, sexy radio voice. No, I'm probably not. I'm probably doing some like kind of, I'm dying type voice, like the old lady out of Titanic. That is probably what I am channeling. But yeah, if I sound a little bit subpar today, it's because I feel like shit, basically. I feel like shit. I mean, I'm that poorly. Beth had a party this morning at one of those trampoline park type places, otherwise known as the Seventh Circle of Hell. But again, hooray for all those of you whose kids are still really small and you're stuck in kind of like children's birthday party hell. It gets better. Now at 10, you just drop them and you run as far away as possible. So I thanked the birthday boy's parents profusely and then legged it into the distance, leaving Beth to leap around on trampolines and other things that young children can do because their pelvic floors haven't been totally fucked by the miracle of childbirth. I should be writing adverts for these places, right? I should be writing adverts. So yeah, I legged it, and then usually what I would do is I would go for a walk, because as you know, I love to walk. Well, I genuinely tried. I parked my car and I tried to go walking and I felt so bad. I had to turn back. I mean, when I got back, I am prone to melodrama, so Mr. I Know I Need to Stop Talking, not unreasonably over the years, when I'm like, I'm so ill, I'm dying, has taken it possibly somewhat with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because I am the world's greatest hypochondriac. Well, when I got back and Beth said, Mummy was so poorly she couldn't even go for a walk, he was like, oh my God, I'm going to call the doctor. So yeah, I do feel like shit. So we'll see how this podcast goes. If I gasp my last breath, then this will be some kind of, recording of history. I mean, there's nothing, when I say I'm a hypochondriac, I really do mean it. But yeah, feeling rubbish. But the good news is, Ocado have already been. I know, right? I had a revelation today. I thought I shall book them to come before the time that I do my podcast and before the time the road closes. I know, right? It's like a miracle. Mark this day in your diaries. I love the lady, if you're the lady today, who commented on the post I wrote this morning, more on which later, and said that every time you now see an Ocado van, you think of me. That is official notoriety, and I feel delighted that every time you see an Ocado van, you think of me. It's a great product. God love Ocado. But yeah, they've come, everything was there. I mean, it's just a joy. So Ocado have been and we're sorted, and God, I feel like shit. Bloody colds. However, this cold could not be better timed, because when it rocked up in the middle of the night last night, as colds are wont to do, I was just back from my holiday. I know, right? A holiday in times of pandemic. Tell you what, I feel so fucking lucky. Honestly, you would not believe it. So we tend to holiday every year in the UK for lots of different reasons, but primarily because I have a deep-seated mistrust of aeroplanes. So we holiday in the UK, and for the last few years, we're very boring. We're very boring when it comes to holiday, because now for the last 4 years, we've gone not only to the same location, we've gone to the same bloody flat every year for the last 4 years. But there is method to my madness. So we are unbelievably lucky to have found the flat that we rent that we do. It's very small. it's very, very, very basic, to the point that this year, for the first time, the excitement when we got there to find they've redone the kitchen and put in a fucking dishwasher. I know, right? God, there could be no better holiday gift of all. And long-time blog readers will perhaps remember last year when we arrived at the flat when there was no dishwasher. And we got there, and I'd said to the children, because obviously we were in peak pandemic times, I'd said, right, when we get there, if you're going to use anything in the kitchen, just to be on the safe side, we just need to wash it up first. So myself and Mr. I Know I Need to Stop Talking went to sit outside on the balcony, and then after a bit I went in to check on the kids and went into the kitchen, and it was just the most glorious visual ever. Jamie, then 12, stood in the kitchen and he was washing up, fine, but he was washing up every single item in the kitchen, like literally the sides of what's not a very big kitchen were filled with glasses and cups. He'd taken out fucking everything. He was washing up a gravy boat. I was like, we're not going to use a gravy boat. He's like, yeah, actually, I quite like washing up. More power to you, son, more power to you. But this year there was no such need for Jamie to do his epic washing up adventure because we had a dishwasher. So yeah, the excitement. But it's a really basic, straightforward flat, but it's massive, massive plus point. And the reason we go back there year after year after year is it sits on the beach, and I do mean on the beach, as in I can open my bedroom window or bedroom door out onto the balcony and I'm overlooking what is a very, very quiet part of beach, and it's just perfect. And it's always been perfect, and it's always felt an utter privilege to be there, but I don't know about anybody else. This year, more than ever, like I just take nothing for granted anymore. And part of me goes, maybe that will be like that forever. And part of me goes, well, that's probably a good thing, right? To not take these things for granted. But honestly, it was such a privilege. And you kind of, you're in the run up, and Beth had to self-isolate because a friend of hers, she'd stayed at her friend's house and her friend's dad got COVID. So Beth had to self-isolate. And so even right up until the morning of the day we were going, I was kind of trying to say to the kids and to myself, don't get your hopes up too much, hopefully we'll be able to go. But we went and we were fine and everybody was well and healthy. And again, I will never, ever, ever take mine or my loved one's health for granted. And we ate out in lovely restaurants. My daddy came down and we spent time on the beach together, just hanging out. And again, hugging the people you love most in the world. Oh my goodness, it's the best thing ever. And for those of you who haven't yet been able to hug the people you love, perhaps because they're in different countries, I send you so much love, honestly. Not being able to hug my dad, one of my best mates in the world, for over a year and a half. It's so, so tough. So yeah, it was just perfect. And it was simple and straightforward. And most days we just sat on the beach and read books and played wildly competitive games of football, obviously. Beth harassed my dad. Beth adores my dad, so she harassed him into standing on the side of the sea and throwing her into the water repeatedly a tennis ball, which she then pretended she was rescuing from drowning. So if you were on the beach with us, I'm really, really, really sorry. She's very loud, isn't she? Very loud. Very, very loud. But it was just amazing. It was just completely amazing. And like I say, I feel so lucky, and I am also really conscious, even I'm saying this, that there are those of you who won't be able to get away this year, or perhaps are unwell or self-isolating. So I hope none of this sounds smug or gloating in the slightest. And just in case it does, and just to show that the Instagram filters don't mean shit. So we're there on our second day on the beach. And Mr. I Know I Need to Stop Talking and I are just lying down reading our books, and the kids are playing some football. It's a really quiet bit of beach. It's a sandy beach. It's a beautiful day. The kids are playing football, but it's like a soft beach ball type thing. So they're just doing their thing. And I'm like, this is so relaxed. This is perfect. And then Beth suddenly goes, Mum, Jamie's hurt himself. That's quite unusual for Beth to reach out for help for her brother. Jamie could be missing limbs and Beth would probably be like, I'm just going to carry on playing some more football. So the fact she said Jamie's hurt himself, I was quite surprised. So I sat up. Bear in mind, please, we're on a sandy beach. Sandy beach, there's some sea, there's some sand, there's a really soft ball. That's it. And so I turn around to look at Jamie, and it's not an exaggeration to say he has blood pouring down his leg. And I do mean pouring. Basically from his knee downwards, there is blood pouring. I'm like, oh my God, what have you done? And he sort of looked sheepish, as he often does. He came over and he went, oh yeah, I was trying to make sure that I saved Beth's goal. And I was like, save it with what? A shard of glass? How have you done this? You're on a sandy fucking beach. Oh yeah, well, I think I must have fallen on a stone. Now, I assumed looking at his leg that he'd cut part of his leg and then he'd just cut a bit and it was bleeding loads and then it was bleeding down his leg. No. He had basically taken off the top layer of skin of most of his shin. I mean, honest God, the amount of blood. As a very sympathetic parent, my next suggestion therefore was to say, right, Jamie, well, you don't want that to get infected. We need to clean it up. Go and get in the sea. He's like, what? I said, go and get in the sea. He said, will it hurt? I said, God, yes. God, yes, it's going to absolutely cane. And fair play to Jamie. He is very stoic. He at that point wandered into the sea and did kind of like some kind of little mad screaming dance while he repeatedly dunked his leg into the sea, which obviously really fucking hurt, and tried to get rid of the blood. And Beth, obviously really supportively in the background, laughed her head off going, look at Jamie. But yeah, so he spent the rest of the week looking like he'd had some rather dramatic altercation with I don't even know what, as opposed to the reality, which was playing with a softball on a sandy beach. This is the reason why he is never allowed to do any dangerous activities ever. So yeah, the filters don't mean shit. We're still more than capable of yeah. I don't even know how that's possible. God love him. He is truly brilliant. Played a lot of crazy golf. Oh, I love a bit of crazy golf. Love a bit of crazy golf. When's it going to be an Olympic sport, eh? Because I feel like this year, I really feel like I came to new levels when it came to the crazy golf course. I really pushed myself. I got a score that was only 2 over par. I don't even really know what a par is, but I know I was 2 over it. And so, yeah, I feel I've really achieved, to the point that for a few years, Beth was very into crazy golf. And every day she was like, right, can we go to crazy golf? Can we go to crazy golf? Yeah, this year I was the embarrassing parent going, come on kids, let's go and do another round of crazy golf. And they're like, well, we've played the course several times, Mommy. And I'm like, let's do it one more time. Let's go and have organised fun. But I do think, I've been watching a lot of the Olympics recently, and I do think, you know, obviously they've got all kinds of sports in there now. Like people climbing up walls faster than I can climb stairs. I mean, all power to you climbing people. And people skateboarding and people doing tricks on bikes. All of which I immediately convinced myself that I could do really well. I found myself going to Mr. I Know I Need to Stop Talking. Yeah, I think I could be really good at riding on a BMX. And he looked at me and laughed, because I have about the same level of grace and coordination as Jamie does, which, as you've just heard, is not very much at all. But yeah, I think the time is right for crazy golf to become an Olympic sport, because I think that I could go there and excel. So if you're listening to this and you're in charge of the next Olympics in Paris, I'm just going to put it out there, crazy golf, I would be there. And I'm really nice and not very competitive at all until, like, I get to, like, actually playing crazy golf. And then I'm like, you know, kids are obviously like, Mummy, it's a fun activity, let's all have fun together. No, concentrate, be quiet, I'm trying to take my stroke. But yeah, love a bit of crazy golf. So did a lot of crazy golf, did a lot of reading. So for those of you who obviously contributed to my great reading recommendations thread, thank you so much. I've read some brilliant books. And all the reviews are up on Instagram if you want to go and have a read. But standout absolutely is 1,000 Splendid Suns, which you all told me for 3 years, Catherine, go and read this book. And I've been like, yeah, it's not really my thing. And oh my God, I'm such a dick. It's such a good book. Everybody should read it. If you look it up and you read the blurb like I did and you think, oh no, that's not for me. No, you're wrong. It will be for you. Read it. It's such an important book. It's so good. So if you recommended that to me, thank you. And I'm so sorry it took me so long to read. It was just brilliant. Got a couple more to get through, so I'll get those on. And if you want something, I was going to say, slightly less highbrow, just something a little bit shitter to read. This is why I don't work in book publicity. Yes, if you want a slightly shitter book to read, my book is slightly shitter, and also only currently 99p on Kindle. Yay! So even if you do think it's shit, and it's certainly not as good as 1,000 Splendid Suns, might be worth it for 99p. I mean, that's less than the price of one of those cans of gin and tonic, isn't it, that you get in like supermarkets. So, you know, maybe if you had 2 99p's, you could buy my book for 99p and then have one of those cans of gin and tonic to get over it. If it is really shit, that would work. Yeah, again, I'm not going to go into book publicity anytime soon, but it is 99p, so that's it. But yeah, read 1,000 Splendid Suns. It's a phenomenal book, and lots of other good ones. So they're all up on Instagram. We've eaten out loads. That's my big indulgence. So we go and stay in the flat, and as I say, it's fairly basic and it's fairly straightforward. But oh, I love to eat a meal that I haven't fucking cooked, particularly after this last year and a half. I don't know if anybody else is feeling that, you know, kind of the joy of, I'm eating a meal that I haven't made. Oh, I haven't had to think about making. or haven't had to think about negotiating with somebody who doesn't want to eat the meal that I've made. It's an absolute joy. I've always had kind of a view, and I've talked before about the fact that my kids are, well, they'll eat basically anything. And as a parent for a long time, I really kind of lauded myself on this, even though it was just complete fucking luck and coincidence and probably fuck all to do with anything I'd done to them. But I, kind of really lauded myself. Oh, my children will eat anything. Yeah, well, that's fucking backfired. I can tell you now. We go out to a nice restaurant now and I'm like, so kids, what are we going to have for dinner? And I'm thinking maybe they'll pick like, fish and chips, or maybe they'll have a nice soup, or there's a pasta, maybe like a tomato pasta. Jamie's like, yeah, I'm going to have the steak. Okay, you sure you wouldn't like anything else on the cheaper end of the menu? No, I'm gonna have steak. Okay, and which steak would you like? Is it the ribeye? No, I think I'll go for fillet. Okay, you're gonna have fillet steak. And we went out not once, not twice, but 3 times this holiday. And Jamie picked the fillet steak, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So I'm now gonna eat. Is it still okay to put your kids up chimneys to like earn additional money? That's what I'm gonna have to do to get him to pay for his fucking fillet steak. And then Beth then also got into the steak action. She's like, oh, I think I'll have a steak as well. Oh, good, marvellous, excellent, good, well done. I'm so happy. Brilliantly, I had one of my absolute favourite meals out to have is lobster. And the restaurant we went to served up the most beautiful lobster. So it arrived, and obviously for anybody who's not eaten lobster, or indeed if you have, you will know, lobster is a difficult food to eat. It's almost like the lobster doesn't want you to eat it, which is probably true. And so you clearly have to get in there with your lobster crackers and kind of like, yeah, it would definitely not be one to eat on a first date, or indeed any meal whatsoever where you want to look vaguely decent in polite company. So I'm tucking into my lobster, and Beth looks over at me and she goes, in a very pointed manner, as only Beth can, she goes, that's cruel, that is. I said, what's cruel? She said, you're eating that? I said, what? She said, that lobster. I said, what do you mean it's cruel? She said, well, you're eating it and it doesn't want to be eaten. And I'm looking over at her plate and going, and the cow you're eating right there in the form of your steak, that cow really wanted to be eaten? Yeah, that stopped the conversation momentarily. So it was lovely. It was a really, really, really lovely break. And I was going to say I feel really rested. I feel really fucking awful because colds are grim, but I do feel really rested, and it was just lovely to have some time, and particularly now the kids are that little bit older. And, it does actually feel like a holiday, as opposed to, and I've chronicled on previous podcasts, those holidays for those of you with small children when, as my friend once described the photo of me when Jamie was 2 and we'd gone to Devon and none of us had slept for a week. You look like a model on drugs. And yes, I did. But they are older now and they can be extremely useful, not least if you want every single item in your kitchen washing up. Yay, Jamie, with his bleeding leg. God, love him. And then we got home, and equally, it's lovely to go away, but isn't it lovely to come back home again? And it is lovely to come back home. And obviously the cats, we'd had somebody house sitting for us, and the cats had treated them in a way that only my fucking dickheads of cats can do. So person house sitting for the cats, I sent a message saying, I hope the cats are behaving. And in response, they just sent me back a video, which was slowly panning around our conservatory, on the floor of which lay not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 very dead rats, which is the welcome home gift that everybody wants after a week away. So yeah, I mean they are classic cat mode right now. We're completely dead to them, so I think it's going to take a while for us to come back into their favour after leaving them for a week. But if nothing else, I'm sure we'll get a few more dead rats before the week is out. But yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely to be home. It's lovely to go away, but it's also lovely to come home, even when you do feel like shit. Have I gone husky yet? Am I into my kind of... I'm not very good on actors and actresses, but there must be somebody who sounds husky and sensual, but I suspect I just sound like the guy in the Halls Soothers adverts. I did put posts this morning up on the blog because I'm really conscious that I have been blogging with increasing irregularity in recent weeks, and kind of deliberately so. I needed to take a little bit of space away from the blog, and I'm conscious that I probably sound like a bit of a wanker saying that because, oh my God, get over yourself, it's a blog, like it's hardly arduous. And it's not right, it's a huge privilege to get to talk to the audience that I do, but some people can be fucking cruel, they really can. There can be some nasty, nasty comments. And however long you're in this game and however much you convince yourself that, yeah, I just let it wash over me and it doesn't impact me at all, it does. And anybody who says it doesn't is lying, because you could hear a million lovely positive comments and it'll be the one narky, nasty comment that stays with you and sticks with you. And I could feel it getting to me. So I have taken a little bit of time away. I think when I get to the point when I'm dreading what's in my inbox, that's a good time to take a little bit of a break. So I have done that. I wrote this morning's post in which, I do get it. I completely acknowledge that those people who are lashing out, there's probably shit going down for them. There probably is all sorts going on that I can only imagine. And I'm an easy target, and as always, the internet makes everybody's lives look lovely and beautiful and fantastic, even when in reality they're dealing with 4 dead rats in their conservatory and children with blood pouring down their legs. So I do get it. And I do get that those people who are lashing out are probably those who need our love and our support the most. But do you know what? It's hard sometimes, and I could definitely feel that. So I do feel better for taking a little bit of a breakaway. I will try to get back to blogging with a little bit more regularity. And I kind of almost feel embarrassed for posting this morning, because then everybody wrote such lovely things, and genuinely that wasn't why I was posting. But I do think it's important that we call those kinds of behaviours out, because if we don't, it just becomes more and more acceptable. And I'm old enough and ugly enough to kind of hopefully be able to kind of deal with that kind of behaviour. But I think if people like me aren't calling it out, then those kind of people are going to keep doing it. And sometimes, you'll get younger people. The thought of my kids one day having, blogs or social media pages or whatever the replacement is, because as Jamie tells me with alarming regularity, Facebook's dead, Mum. It's dead. Okay, cool. Thanks, Sam. Way to make me feel valued. But yeah, I think the thought of younger people having to deal with that as well, it's not okay. So yeah, it felt important to write, but to all of you who were so kind and wrote such lovely things, thank you so much. I bloody love our little corner of the internet. I really, really do. And yeah, you're all amazing. You are all genuinely amazing. Right, I'm going to go and die now. I mean, hopefully not literally. God, that'll be awkward, won't it, if I go and die now? I mean, yeah, Beth is already planning my funeral, so she just can't wait to get her hands on my stuff. So I'll probably sleep with one eye open tonight, just in case. But yeah, I'm going to go and die quietly on the sofa, and probably go and very responsibly medicate with some post-holiday champagne, because I'm sure if I'd done 7 years at medical school, that is exactly what I would be prescribing myself. I hope you're all well. I hope none of you have got this fucking cold. I don't recommend it. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. But yeah, I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It continues to be strange times. It continues to be a little bit bonkers. But as always, look after yourselves. Stay safe. Take care of you. And I will see you next week. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.